One of our pastors was telling me that at the beginning of the school year, he decided he was going to visit the kindergarten class to welcome them. And he started out his conversation with them by saying, have you noticed, kids, that when God made you, he gave you one mouth, he gave you one nose, but he gave you two ears. Why is that, do you think? And immediately, a young boy raised his hand and said, so that we listen to both sides. What a wise young man with great insight. Today we have Joseph, who receives the news maybe with one ear, the ear on the outside, knowing that his betrothed is with child and it's not his child. And he begins to panic a little bit. And not wanting to shame her, he's decided to divorce her quietly. But the Lord speaks to him in the depths of his heart in a dream, takes him to a whole nother area of his life, not on the outside, but on the inside. And that is a wonderful lesson for us as we always try to discern those moments in life that are a challenge and a struggle for us. How do we know what in fact is the right path forward, especially as we're hit with some great challenges before us, ways in which our lives seem to be threatened? The first thing that we hear about Joseph is that he's open to listening to that phrase of the Lord, do not be afraid. Too often in life, decisions are made because we are afraid. But the Lord time and again tells us in the gospel, and spiritual directors as well, to make a decision out of fear, out of panic, is not the right course. So it's important to put aside those fears and allow the Lord to say more to us. And it's then that he's able to hear that the Holy Spirit is at work. It's a good reminder to us that despite all of our efforts to try to control our life or situate ourselves in a way that makes us less vulnerable, we have to always believe that the Holy Spirit is at work in our lives, that God has a purpose much beyond everything else that we imagined about ourselves, and that he wants Joseph in this text to dream bigger, to understand that God has a purpose for Mary and him and this child that's to come into the world. And so too with us. Can we begin to see in a moment of crisis that the Lord is opening a new door for us, giving us an opportunity to grow in a way that otherwise would not have been possible? How often that's true. It's in a moment of a crossroads that the Lord calls us to love more deeply in the relationships that we have, in the opportunities that we have to serve, that the Lord is calling us to something more than we anticipated. And finally, Joseph is able to hear that God is faithful, because this story that unfolds in his life is something that was promised by the prophets long ago. And that God now is faithful. God is with them. He will not be abandoned. And the more that we listen to the Lord in the depths of our hearts, to have that assurance that we're not alone, that we're not by ourselves as we take up the challenges, we can be sure that it is the voice of God. And so today, it's an opportunity for us to listen to both sides with both ears. Not just the noise on the outside, the challenges that we face, but to develop as well a sensibility of listening internally in our hearts of how God is speaking to us. A voice that says to us, don't be afraid. The Holy Spirit is at work in your life, and God will not abandon you because God is ever faithful. Yes, we have our struggles, our difficulties, our challenges in life. And it is an opportunity for us as we hear the story about Joseph to once again look for how the Lord is calling us always to be more the person that he has created us to be able to listen with both ears, to listen to both sides.